What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Auburn Business Ventures Goldmine Podcast. We bring you the stories and knowledge of local business owners and entrepreneurs so you can learn and grow from our community's finest people. Today's episode of the podcast is with Brandy Alvis, who founded Sage Sleep Organics. We had a fascinating talk about bedding science and how her adaptability keeps leading her to success. Brandy Alvis, Sage Sleep Organics.
Thank you for having me. By
Yeah,
the way.
of
So
course.
fun to see you again.
So let's break it down real clear. You had a sleep shop in Auburn, and there's a lot more to your story, but that's something that was closed just before COVID by coincidence. It had nothing to do with COVID. And so I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of what your story is with the sleep shop and just being in the industry. And I think the conversation will take off very well from there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So again, my name is Brandy Alvis, and I'm an Auburn born and bred person, and had a business here in town for about 5 years. And it was accidental, to be honest with you. I'm in the natural bedding space. So Sage Sleep designs and distributes organic mattresses and bedding. And can't wait to jump into what that means exactly.
Right.
And I knew, quite frankly, I was working from home like over 5 years ago. And I was traveling a ton. And I really needed to be home more often, because I had like high school kids at home, and I realized, okay, like I need to be around. My husband was a fireman, gone a lot. So I needed to make some lifestyle changes.
Right.
So I worked from home quite a bit, and my husband came home one day and he's like, hey, I've rented you an office. You need to get out. Like, I love interaction, and I really thrive in that environment. And so working from home for me was really difficult.
Okay.
And he's like, you need to get out. Like, I get it. You know, this isn't the right thing. And he was really brave to tell me that, because I don't usually take that kind of
Things like,
lightly, what do you mean? He's like, no, I signed a lease. This is what's going to happen.
Nice.
And he's like, think of it as an experiment, right? And so it started out as an experiment. And I thought, well, if an organic bedding store can work in Auburn, California, then it could work anywhere.
And you said you had a 5-year run.
5-year run.
Doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we gave it 5 years, and I learned a ton. I failed. I succeeded. We made money. We lost money. We learned, coming from the background of wholesale and business development and sales, right? So my job, essentially, before I started my own company, was to build a brand and take it out into the brick and mortar world, get it placed in stores throughout the country, train people how to sell it, right?
Okay, so this was doing your own version of what you've always done.
Right.
Or what you were at least a professional at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although I realized it's totally different than what I expected.
Entrepreneurship?
Well, no, actually physically having a store, running a store, selling product to the actual consumer versus selling it to buyers of fancy department stores.
Right.
And
it's
even
B2C instead of B2B.
So different.
Yeah.
So that was a huge learning lesson for me. It's made me better at product development. It's made me better as a wholesale manufacturer. It's made me a lot better at my job.
You know, what's really interesting is, okay, so the first time we had any like real long conversation was earlier this year. And okay, so you're 5 years deep into your own retail store, and you're about done with that journey, and you're transitioning, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's funny because my first sorry, I heard like this static thing. I thought the computer had an issue. My first impression of you after I started talking to you more was like, wow, Brandy is like I felt like you were like the real deal entrepreneur, like the way that you thought about things and talked about things, and kind of were passionate about what you're doing. And I just felt that from you, and I was like, I cannot wait to, have you on the show. And at the time we didn't even have the podcast launched yet, but I just knew, I'm like, oh, Brandy's the real deal. And it's interesting to think now that was after 5 years of you having your own store. And obviously I don't know the rest of your story before that, but I just wanted to let you know that was like a positive impression I had on you.
Oh, thank you.
Of you.
Well, it's true. I mean, I joke, everyone in my family jokes that I was 6 years old and I had a business selling rocks to my neighbors.
And it was probably their rocks too.
It was probably their rocks. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. So I've always found myself, I love to make things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very creative. I think most entrepreneurs are, right? I'm very impatient, as most entrepreneurs are also. I love to start projects. I mean, let's be honest. Execution isn't really my forte, but man, I am amazing at coming up with ideas.
Okay, so maybe that's why I liked you so much, because I have the same weakness.
Yeah.
Right.
Where like we were just talking about it actually. I'm like, oh yeah, we're doing all this long-term stuff, and we're just now starting to focus on some like short-term gains to fuel the fire for the long term. Yeah. And where did actually? I'll just ask you right now, because why not? Where did you find? How did you accommodate for that? To you know what I'm saying? Being better at the long term and the idea generation and the vision. How did you finally lock down enough, at least,
On this industry, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to how did you finally decide to even on a personal level, how did you lock down to get doing the small things you need to do day to day to make a week work and week to week to make a month work?
Yeah.
You know
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I haven't figured that out.
Okay.
To be honest
Fair
with
enough.
You.
Yeah.
When I started in this industry, it was early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
I needed a job. I was a single mom raising 2 kids. I had a mortgage to pay, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I started in a company. It wasn't my best phase of my life. I worked for a company, and because I was very entrepreneurial. I mean, I was a research person for
Right.
this company,
Right.
and this company was a catalog company for healthy living lifestyle products, which I felt, very, I've always lived a very holistic and healthy, organic
right. So
life.
at
quote
least you
unquote.
identified with the
Completely.
industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I was definitely the consumer.
Right.
So long story short, I worked for this company, and because I'm very entrepreneurial, I was like, oh, you're doing this all wrong.
Right.
Right. and the guy went along with it.
Huh. That's awesome.
It was awesome for me. It was so awesome for me because
Give you a little bit of space,
yes.
a little bit of fulfillment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got to test a lot of theories with somebody else's money.
Mm.
I mean, let's be honest. That's what being
That's
an
awesome.
entrepreneur is, right?
Yeah.
So I got a paycheck every month, and we built a factory.
Mm-hmm.
We hired a team. We developed all the R&D, developed the product, and all the sourcing.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it all, and he let me do it.
Wow.
And that was the best of both worlds, because for me, I got to learn so much.
Mm-hmm.
For him, it got done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Your
Right.
sandbox, his results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the economy tanked.
Mm-hmm.
And I was way too emotionally invested in this company. In my mind,
Was this like 2008?
this
Or was it?
So
Okay.
that in 2008 the economy tanked, right?
Right.
And I was working for this company, and we had already had issues, because I was so emotionally invested in this company.
Mm-hmm.
I liken it to when you have a new partner, and you want to change them, right? When
Okay.
you're young.
Yeah.
I was young.
Right.
And I wanted to change everything about this company. I saw so much opportunity, and they allowed me to run with it for so long until it was doing $5 million in business, and it was way out producing their other company.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they started paying attention,
Right.
and they were in my way.
Okay.
I took it really personally,
Right.
and I'm like, just continue. I thought it was going to be employee-owned. An ESOP wasn't ever an ESOP. But that was a great learning lesson for me. It stung, but I learned so much. And again, I got to really develop the skills of being a raw material sourcing. I learned how to create a factory. I really I learned everything from developing the product, choosing what goes in it, how to position it in the marketplace,
Beautiful.
and then how to make sure that it actually sells once it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And then make sure they get it. All of those things within 5 or 6 years was an incredible learning lesson for me.
That explains a lot. Because when I went into your sleep shop, first of all, the environment in there was just amazing. You just walk in and you're just zenned out, you know, and I love that when you're in any space, that the environment hits you like
it's
right
so
away.
important.
I love that. I'm like, oh, somebody here, whoever put this together cares.
Well, when you're selling bedding, I mean, it's such an intimate product,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you want a safe place,
Right.
especially for women, because women are, you know, really our main consumer. Like they're making 74% of all buying decisions in our business, in our space.
Right.
So you want, and a mattress, you know, you're lying down. It's just very awkward and intimate. So to have a space, you're very vulnerable. Exactly. So creating a space that's safe and beautiful where women want to spend time is really important to making this type of business work.
Yeah, and I remember being in there because I was there for a couple hours, and you had one or two customers roll in, and you know they hadn't heard the news yet that you were closing down, and so they were bummed when they heard that. But it's like they came in like to see you too, not just to get their bottle of whatever.
That's what I'm going to miss the most.
You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, that's that piece that it's more than reputation. It's relationships, and I thought about that too, and I'm like, yeah, relationships are just critical.
So important.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss that. You know, Auburn, man, it's a beautiful, the people in Auburn are very special. And we pulled people from really Davis, El Dorado County, Truckee, Tahoe.
Wow.
So we saw a lot of the greater Sacramento region,
Right.
a lot of Bay Area transplants, a lot of, you know, multi-generational families in Auburn, in Grass Valley, where I live in Nevada County, and we're a multi-generational family. So there's a lot of that happening, and it was really, the relationships are really special to me. And that part of it was an absolute joy. I miss it every day.
Right.
I'll go walk around town just hoping I'm going to bump into friends
Right.
that I met in my store.
Right. And hoping the bar's open, maybe.
Yeah,
No, I'm
there's
just-
always that.
Club car. And so if you don't know Brandy right now, we're gonna go into like, okay, well, you're saying that she's Sage Sleep and she doesn't have a store, so what does she do? Right. So
So I mean, I started my company after the economy tanked, and I worked for this really great company. I had this great run of success. When I was fired, because that's exactly what happened. There's no fancy way to say I wasn't let go, laid off, nothing. I was flat out fired.
They're like, thanks for building this for us.
But also I had a terrible attitude.
Right.
I mean, I was like, I did this. Get out of my way. What the hell? Why are you, involving yourself now?
Right.
It was, I mean, come on. I'm not employable. That's the bottom line.
At least you know it.
So I after getting, I stumbled for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then what did I do? I called every single one of my competitors. When I walked away, I had a great reputation. I had 140 stores that I had been selling and servicing all over the country, all over North America. And I was the only one doing it. I mean, we had our team that did the hard work, right? But I was the relationship.
Right.
And we're talking big department stores. So I had really great connections. So the first thing I did is I called all my competitors and I told them I was a free agent. And I'm like, you need to hire me, and then so what I did is I went to a company I really liked that we actually built product for, like originally as a white labeling situation, and they ended up doing their own thing. And I'm like, dude, your beds are not comfortable. You need to hire me. I'm going to make them comfortable. I'm going to help you sell them. This is going to be great. So, but I didn't want to be an employee. I kind of knew, like, okay, being an employee isn't for me. You can grow someone else's empire. Right.
I love that the honesty too. Yeah. Like when you're sometimes you need to deliver somebody the truth to help them. Your beds aren't comfortable. I know how to fix that. Hire me. To a lot of people, they won't take offense, and they'll just be like, well, that's actually really convincing. Like, you're actually telling me my product.
Yeah.
My product
isn't good.
Sucks. Yeah.
Now the behind the scenes was amazing. This company was behind the scenes the most legit company in every way. For the organic customer, it's like kosher food. It is, it's created in such a way that's so legitimate. But the finished product, I've always firmly believed you shouldn't have to give up luxury just to sleep in something that's non-toxic.
Right. Right.
You shouldn't have to give anything up. Like, you shouldn't eat organic food. Organic food shouldn't taste any worse than regular food, right?
Yeah, healthy food shouldn't taste like crap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you come from a space of being really purist, the comfort really doesn't come into the equation because their motivation is a different place.
A lack of toxicity.
Yeah. And I already learned that lesson at my previous job that was a bad idea because we tried and it didn't work.
Right.
And we were able to pivot and we changed it and it worked. But that was a learning lesson. I had already learned that lesson. It's not like I came up with this.
Right.
Not that smart. So they hired me and we did it. And then I realized, and I went and I did it for another company, and I went and did it for another company. So I realized that, wow, I can do this. I can look at someone's business from an outside perspective. And, you know, everyone's in the weeds in our own business, right?
Yeah. Right. It's like a story of like, it's recognizing your capability. Yeah. You've had it the whole time and you were delivering results the whole time. And sometimes we do need to look at ourselves and slow down a little bit and be like, okay, you're crushing it. Admit it. Like, admit that you're really good at this. And so many of us are not good at that. So many of us are, like, if you're anything like me, like, I know I have talents, fine, but I downplay them like crazy. And, you know, sometimes it takes, like, your significant other or somebody like that, somebody that's really close to you, to say, hey, you know, Brandy, you're a killer, you know, product positioning person, you know, and you're like, oh, yeah, I know, I've been doing it. You're like, no, really, like, you're the best that's out there. And sometimes it takes somebody to, like, just tell you directly and then for you to let it sink in, which it sounds like what's coming next is it gave you the confidence to start a business. Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's true. So what I got to see what all the competition was doing. Mainstream companies, huge, ginormous bedding companies and big department stores. And I had great relationships with really smart people. And I was told often told that, wow, you have a very interesting perspective. And this is an emerging category of this business. So it was really the right time, the right place at the right time for me. I got really lucky.
But did they say you have an interesting perspective in a positive or negative way?
Oh, for sure. No, positive way.
Okay, because like sometimes people are like, oh yeah, it's interesting. Like, wait, you don't believe me?
Yeah.
You know?
True. Good point. But it's like making like organic fashion. So organic fashion isn't really that fashionable if you think about it originally, right? When it first came out, or like organic food is very expensive and nichey and bougie.
It kind of became popular.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had the wherewithal to pay attention to what the food industry, the organic food movement, the personal care product movement, see that growth in market share and realize, oh, it's going to come to this. Because, I mean, if you just sit back and watch, you'll see. And being fired in 2008 was the best time for me to reevaluate everything.
Yeah.
But I was so like on my top of my game at that point that it was easy for me to just jump off into something else because we had financial success and I had really important people telling me that I had a good idea.
Right.
Which gave me this
validation.
Yeah. And it was motivating. I mean, who doesn't like that, right? So in 2010, I realized after a couple years of consulting that it's like, you know, I'm building everyone else's brand and giving them a lot of creative advice. 2010, I started my own physical brand and a huge, and here's the irony. I spent a lot of time and energy creating what I thought was just the best mattress collection and bedding collection that can be made, right? And it failed miserably.
Oh man.
Because you were hyper focused on the product? Or
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I think that I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Well, that's not true. I was coming from, so normally like when a mattress gets developed, some chemical company develops a foam or a new widget, right?
Sure.
And then that widget, whether it's a spring or a piece of fabric or whatever, gets handed over to a brand and they create a marketing story around it.
Right.
Then the product's developed and then it goes to the store. So it's never about comfort or function.
Right.
It's about marketing and the technology of that widget, typically, right? So I did it from that perspective. And what I realized is that I had still a ton of learning to do. So I took this collection and put it in a store in the Bay Area for the first, it ended up being 2 years till I figured it out. And I just listened to consumers. They didn't know I was the one that developed it. And they just told me everything that was wrong with it.
That's so funny.
And it sucked. Yeah.
Okay. What else? What did you say was the most miserable thing you've ever felt in your entire life?
Exactly.
I'm taking notes.
And they're like, well, it's not worth the money. It's, there are so many things. There's so many facets of a brand, of a product working in a retail environment.
Yeah.
From the way that it looks, the way that it feels, the price that it's at, how it's merchandised.
The whole experience. Yep.
So it took me 2 years. And what ended up happening is everything that they recommended I tried, and they were right.
That's beautiful. Listen to the people.
Yep.
So I always say that the people of the Bay Area of California developed my entire mattress collection and bedding collection.
That's funny. I like that.
I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just a conduit.
They're the one that, they told you.
They told me. And then.
And so is that what became Sage Sleep?
Yes.
Got it.
And so for me, it's, yes, a mattress should be made of, in the cleanest, purest way. And it should be, and we'll talk more about why that matters, but it should also be it should feel amazing. It should feel like $1 million, whether it costs $1,000 or, $2,000. It should feel 10 times more expensive.
Right.
It should look beautiful. And it should last a really long time to give really true value to the consumer.
Right.
And it was really quite different from the first iteration of my line.
Right. Okay, then you set up a sleep shop.
So then, again, I was working from home, getting product positioned in stores, stumbling through things because it's lonely as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it definitely can be.
Yeah, and I was lonely. I mean, it's when you're working with business to business kind of consumer, my consumer was a business shop owner. I know this now, that when you're a shop owner, you're sort of the king or queen of your own castle. And when you need something, you need it now. So I was at the beck and call of a lot of people all the time and trying my hardest to start this movement of what is now Sage Sleep.
Right.
And I wasn't in a good headspace, and my partner said, hey, again, he rented a space. He's like, we're going to turn this into a training center. So the original concept was we put all the product and make it beautiful because mattress stores are not beautiful.
Right. They're so boring.
They're pretty clean.
Yeah.
And sterile looking.
Sterile. Almost like a sanitarium. Yeah. I know. So I thought, well, when some of the best stores in the country that I get the chance, like, Bloomingdale's and these beautiful stores, they're beautiful. They're an experience. And I was very motivated by that and wanted to create my own Sage Sleep experience. So we created this store that was really for nothing other than a place for me to go to work every day.
Right.
And instead of get on a plane and go to Portland or New York or Miami, it was to bring them here.
Nice.
So they would come to the store, product train, see the collection. They'd fly in. I'd pick them up. We'd go eat organic food. I'd put them up at a bed and breakfast. So they got to sleep on the product.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That was the focus of Sage Sleep Auburn.
Right. And that was the sales process too.
Yeah. It was just the business to business.
Right.
And then a local business person came to me and they're like, what is going on here? This is so weird. You're never open.
Right. Because you would normally not have a storefront for a B2B operation.
No way.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense, but it was quirky, and to me, I didn't see it. I didn't see it as a storefront because of the location.
Right.
But it was,
Yeah.
and it was weird. So the business group came to me and they're like, we'd really love for you to be open. Like, this is strange. I don't know what's happening here.
We think you might be doing something. No.
Yeah. I mean, they're like, what is this about? It was very weird. I mean, come on. There were lots of probably weird assumptions, right?
Yeah. Right.
People coming.
Yeah. Why is there a mattress store in the middle of here that yet she's never open?
That's
this
so
is
funny.
very strange. So, I'm like, okay, let's try it. We'll be open Thursday through Saturday. My high school child, my son, I'm like, hey, you're going to manage a store.
There you go.
And you can keep all the profit.
Oh, nice.
You're going to be open. These are your hours. You're going to keep all the profit.
Like all the B2C stuff.
all the B2C stuff.
Yeah.
And we made it beautiful. I go, once we paid for all the merchandise, you run it, and he made a lot of money. And I was like, oh, dude, you're out of here. I'm taking over.
Yeah, I can't go to college or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
Exactly. But it was weird, too, also having a high school boy in a mattress store where we sold women's robes and pajamas and eye masks and pillows.
He's like, they seem to think that one's really comfortable. They seem to really like that one.
He really got into his feminine side as a high school boy. It was really interesting to see that happen, actually. It was really weird. Anyway, so it worked, and it was fun. And I really enjoyed it. Having those interactions that were refreshing to me, because it was so different than my regular job. I spent way too much time on it, making the store look beautiful, talking to customers. I mean, people would come in and spend literally hours hanging out.
Yeah.
We'd have Pellegrino in the back and beer after hours. I mean, it was super fun. It became sort of like a hangout for me. And I made a lot of friends, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then the lease, came up, and I realized that this isn't financially, I need to be spending my energy in other places.
Right.
I've learned a ton. And the location, it required me to hire someone to manage it, and the economy wasn't as strong enough to me to feel comfortable in doing that.
Yeah.
I had this gut feeling like it was time to go.
It's so crazy. That was like just wonderful intuition.
I get lucky.
Okay, so just to be clear for everybody who's listening, she decided to close down the store like literally right before the government shutdowns from COVID happened, and that's the gut decision of the century for me right there.
Optically, everyone thought, oh, it's just COVID, she's gone. And it didn't. Here's the thing. I got lazy. I didn't communicate it as well to our customers as I should have.
Okay.
We still had people, even today, I got a call saying, oh my gosh, I just came to see you. You're not there.
You're like,
it's been months.
Right.
Like, how did they not get that email or emails? Like, I have called, emailed, sent letters, like done all the things. But it wasn't. But when you're in this transition mode, I could have done more, and I should have.
Especially teardown mode.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like, all right, we're shutting down here. It's like, you're not thinking like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a blah, 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 blah for each person that's bought something in the past year. And because you could go really crazy with it.
And I should have.
Well, sure, maybe. But I'm just saying we have to, hold ourselves to a standard that allows us to be successful, but also not freaking beat ourselves up too hard when we do things like this or misstep, or maybe not even misstep, but just like kind of like I didn't even shoot the ball on that one.
But I got to be honest with you. Because I'm an entrepreneur, all I was thinking about what's next.
Yeah.
And that leads me to that same meeting where you came and visited that day, and we're chatting, what's next for me? Like we had a great strategy session, and you brought some really great insight. And that's part of it. I think that as entrepreneurs, one of the reasons that it's so fantastic to be in an environment that's outside of your home is you have interactions with other really smart people and help you see things in a different way.
Yes.
And we chatted for a couple hours, and I told you what my idea was, and you helped me refine a lot of those talking points. And that's what I was working on. We, as a reminder, we were talking about when you really look at the numbers on this business, over 70% of our business was either repeat or referral business.
Right.
And how do we thank that customer? How do we, because really our business depended on those transactions and those relationships.
Right. Right.
And that's when we started our ambassador program.
Right. And this is what you're doing now.
Yeah.
The store's been
that's
closed.
Part of it. Yeah. I mean,
store's been closed for about 6 months. And so now you have an ambassador program. And I think you've done a pretty good job so far, telling me that you got 30 ambassadors now. And in 6 months, I'm like, oh, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Well, I have the woman who helps me with that, the woman that's her project, her name is Sharice. She's a rock star. And it's because of her. I mean, first of all, we're still selling to all those other brick and mortar stores.
Right. You still have your B2B.
We still have our B2B business. We still, and our website still is the founding, machine in our business.
Right.
And we, even at the store, we were really an e-commerce company, let's
Right.
be honest.
Yeah.
And that's where most of our energy has always gone. But what the store taught me mostly is that the referral business, that human belly-to-belly interaction, especially with women, right? Retail is changing in so many ways, especially this year.
Yes.
But that referral business, it's still about, that's why social media works, right? It's about, let's talk about what we like and what we don't like.
Yeah.
And so, again, if we looked at the data, 74% of our business was referral and or repeat business. Why not? We had this huge following of women who talked about our products.
Right.
Why not reward them?
Yeah. That's not like there's like this silent support group, and it's like, well, if we pay attention to them, maybe they'll get something out of it, they'll help us more,
Exactly. And how can we help them? How can we thank them in a real, meaningful way?
Right.
Besides, you just shut down and bail.
Disappear. Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Didn't feel good,
Right.
And this was my way of staying in touch and in tune. So, for instance, there were quite a few women who always drum up business for us. And they would, the same names kept coming over and over and over. So I reached out to those women one by one and said, hey, I want to do something that I want to continue the support. I appreciate it so much. I depend on it. This part of my business really depends on it. How can we collaborate in a more dynamic way, in a more official way? We became a B Corp in January of last year. And so that's always been our mission is women supporting women and having a healthy work-life balance. I'm not always good at that.
Sure.
So my evil, my sort of sideline motivation here is so I can learn a healthy work-life balance someday, right? That's the irony.
That's pretty normal for an entrepreneur to do, is to solve their own problem, but then it solves a bunch of other people's problems in the process.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I've just heard that narrative a lot. That's all.
So I went to them and I'm like, hey, if you can help us sell pillows online through social media, we'll create beautiful content. All we're asking is you to share it, which is they're doing anyway, in their own way, but we're just organizing it, making it easier for them to talk about it more often.
And you give them a commission.
And they get a commission. And now we have women, and at the end of every month, we're paying out commissions. It's the best day of the month. The more commission, come on, Google and Facebook don't need any more money.
No, they're doing pretty good by themselves.
Right?
They got a pretty, let's just say, it's at least a halfway decent business model.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So for us to be able to share the revenue, it's a revenue sharing opportunity. Love it. Our overhead is different now. We don't need all that. We have room to share.
Yep.
And we depend on them, and we hope that they'll depend on us. They already believe in the product. And that's 99% of it, right? They authentically like the product.
Yeah. That's crucial. It's like, you always run into a salesperson who, let's say buying a mobile phone. It's like the kid's there from, after high school or whatever, and he doesn't want to be there. It's just like, I just need to make a couple of dollars, and you can tell. It's like,
totally.
Whatever phone you want to pick, I don't really care. Or like somebody who actually is like, no, you don't understand. This is the best mattress ever. And I want you to buy it because I know it will make you happy. That's a totally different experience.
Yep.
And
especially most of them were already consumers of ours, right? So they already have the product.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was very, very smart of you to not throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Totally.
Right, because the bathwater was the positioning in the retail space. And not the brick and mortar retail space. Yeah. And you're like, all right, it's time to drain that one. But then it's like, but wait a minute, there's so much goodness within there.
So much. 5 years.
Yeah.
And the relationships, like you said, when you're in the store, it's a weird thing, but when you fit someone to a pillow or a mattress, you get to know them.
Yeah. You're like you're D3 or
Totally.
whatever that
It's so weird knowing like, I know that person's a side sleeper. I know that person wakes up with numb arms. It's like or who they're sleeping with and who they're not. You know what I mean?
Numb arms. Oh my gosh, I'm the one like that has to grab my arm with my other arm and like move it with my other arm because it's so dead.
So I have something that I wish I had one in my car. I'm going to bring you one. Literally, our pillow business is off the charts right now because
you're slinging pillows, huh?
We are.
Yeah.
We are. It's crazy.
That's fun. It's interesting. Like you must know so much about like all that stuff. Like it's been like you had so much experience, and that's like I'm like this pillow's worn out. I'm gonna go get another one.
So I'll tell you a funny story how I learned. So I learned it's like a lifetime of learning, right? Mm-hmm. But I was in Bloomingdale's in New York City, and
what is that? Is that like that's the big
fancy department store. And by the way, Bloomingdale's sold the most bedding products of any store in the country for a long, long time, and I was there at the tail end of that. Mm-hmm. And so they had these sales associates, with the real fancy suits, and they're selling $10,000, $20,000 mattresses, guys. This is real retail.
Oh, wow. That's like.
Yeah, this is real retail. And so, I just absorbed everything I could from these people. Most of them were men. And they taught me that you just can't go buy a mattress. Even though, it's a very boring purchase. It should be romantic. You sleep.
You should fall in love with that mattress.
You should. You sleep a third of your life.
Right.
You're literally laying on it for like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's actually really good. Yeah.
People don't think of a mattress that way.
I wonder why not. I wonder because it's such a normal part of our life that we just take it for granted because it's the always there thing.
That's it.
I wonder the same thing about people who wear uncomfortable shoes.
Right.
Like
they don't know how to live.
You walk on that every day.
Right.
I got horrible back pain. You're like, well, you wear heels.
I will tell you, so I read a story once that mattress shopping created as much anxiety as going to the dentist.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
That tells you how scary it is because it's a big purchase.
I'm too goofy to end up in that statistic because I would be like, which one do I get to jump on?
Yeah. Woo! Good thing I have all those boys, right?
Yeah.
That's the fun part. It should be fun too.
I wonder what worries people about that.
The money, is it going to work? Because once you really start first of all, you never think about a mattress.
Right.
It's like voodoo magic to them.
Yeah. It's like when I go into an electronics store, okay? You obviously know about electronics. Look at all your beautiful equipment here. Mm-hmm. When I go to buy a TV, all I know is what I want it to do and how much money I want to spend on it. I don't even know if that's a realistic number that until I go. So I really have to trust the people.
That's one really important thing that you pointed out, and I have to interject. I'm sorry. But when somebody approaches a problem with cost first, you immediately know they know nothing about what they're shopping for. They know nothing because they're approaching it with this thing that shouldn't matter. Like, okay, it's different if it's a very understandable product, right? Like a belt.
Right.
Okay, it holds your pants up. We get it.
Or shoes. Like, we know we should invest in good shoes. Like, that most people know that.
Right. But I'm giving an example of something that doesn't matter as much as shoes. Okay, fine. Shop for a $10 belt instead of a $50 belt. It's going to get the job done.
Gotcha.
But and so you approaching it with price first is the detriment it's going to cause you is not going to be that substantial. But something like a mattress or like running shoes.
Because it's a commodity now.
Yeah.
The big mattress companies have turned it into a commodity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll admit it. Like, I bought a vacuum-packed memory foam mattress off of Amazon a few years ago, and it came in like a nice...
That's why your arm's falling asleep.
I believe you. I don't know anything about this, but all I know is it showed up at my doorstep, and I like cut it open. It was like... And you're like, ooh.
It's pretty cool, though. I mean, come on. Let's
be
honest.
And...
Pretty fun to watch at.
It's funny because if you were to ask me, well, Cody, do you think it's a comfortable mattress? I would say yes, but I'm also going to admit like extreme levels of ignorance. So what do you even know any better? And if you asked me that, I would say, well, kind of, but not really. Yeah, no, not really.
Most people, the people who know better, right, quote unquote, know better about a mattress, are people who either they're like a professional athlete or they're older, they're very focused on health and wellness, or they really depend on sleep in order to like have a good full life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We all get there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It hits us at different phases of our lives.
We were eating lunch, looking at our Fitbit apps, and he's like, I have averaged 6 hours a day this week. And I was like, I would die.
Of sleep?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like I have no problem falling asleep, and I've been getting 6 hours of sleep a night for as long as I can remember, because I'm an early bird and my wife's a night owl. So it's like, oh, well, it's 11. I guess we should get to bed. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll be up at 5 or 6.
No matter what.
No matter what, yeah.
Your circadian clock kicks in, you're up.
Yep. So.
And I wear one of those, that's funny, I'm going to talk about this. I wear one of those sleep masks that illuminates in the morning. And that's been a game changer for me, because I can't wake up with, if I'm in the dark.
Oh.
Blue light. So it's blue light that wakes you up, and red light that tones you down. Mm-hmm. And so you could do both. You could have you could have the red light go to help you fall asleep. But either way, it's nice. It has a feature where you get to set the sunrise, the length of time on the sunrise, and so it'll start as dim as it goes, and it'll slowly start to glow. And so I'll think it's 7:30 in the morning, all bright and shiny, and then I'll wake up, because it's natural to wake up with the light, and then I'll realize that I'm wearing my mask, and I'll take it off, and it's pitch black in the room.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, and so I've kind of had to teach myself to sit up before I take my mask off. Otherwise, it's like I pull it off and it's dark again, and I'm
button.
like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna snooze.
That's funny.
Yeah, that thing was like $90, but it's been the best.
See, that's the thing. If it works, it's so worth the money, and money becomes a non-issue.
Right.
I don't need it in the summer because it's light early.
Right.
But even now in September, it's not like that anymore. Yeah, it's called an Illumi, or something, or sleep or Sound Oasis is the name. Yeah, they make like sound machines and stuff.
Cool.
Sound Oasis is like the overall brand, but then this is called like the Illumi. Anyway,
we sold a cool product like that in our store in Auburn. It was a diffuser, essential oil diffuser with that morning circadian light that would come on.
Okay.
So the light would slowly come on like the sun rises, and then it would have like a peppermint oil.
Okay.
So it was all those senses.
Yeah, that's the type of thing I was looking for initially, but there's other people in the room sleeping. So I don't want to wake everybody up.
Oh, gotcha.
That's where the mask came in.
That makes sense.
Individual
What a great idea. See, people are so smart.
It's great when there's a product out there that you're like, if only.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
We need more good pillow people in the world.
I happen to know some. But, the thing is, sleep is we're in a massive sleep crisis in our country.
I believe it.
I mean, especially with COVID. Come on, we're drinking too much. I'm not,
Yeah.
I wish I was drinking too much. But we're
name's
drinking.
Brandy.
That's true.
It's kind of surprising it shut now.
But it's true.
Yeah.
We have a massive sleep crisis, and sleep, it's how it keeps us healthy. It fights disease, keeps us looking better, feeling better, smarter, longer. It's
sharper.
All those, it matters so much. And so when you come to look at investing in sleep products, you have to look at it from that perspective, an investment.
Yeah, there's even the people that have those chili pads, or whatever. There's like a whole machine that you can put next to your bed, and it warms or cools the pad according. Oh, man. I'm like, that's so genius.
I have to tell you that temperature is one of the most important parts of a good night's sleep. We sweat a pint of moisture per night.
And breathing too.
Yeah.
You're breathing out moisture. And I'm like in a war with my wife I'm like, look, it's scientifically proven that the ideal temperature for the air is 68 or whatever degrees, And she's like, but it's cold. More blankets.
And so here's how to solve that.
Okay.
So the one of the reasons natural mattresses, sort of organic, what have you, are better for sleep as far as functionality.
Okay.
Let's take the philosophical points off. Better for the environment, better for your physical, chemical body, is because just on the temperature standpoint. So when you have two people in bed, typically one sleeps a lot hotter than the other. natural fibers help you regulate your own body temperature. So as you're sweating and you're exuding all that moisture through your pores, that moisture is wicked away from your body.
So it's because of the actual material it's made out of.
Yes. It's like high performance before high performance was a thing.
Okay, got it.
Because natural fibers do that.
Yeah, so like this shirt, it's like a stretchy polyester shirt that it's like a sports shirt. I'm going to wear it in the summer because it just breathes way better than cotton. Or cotton's just hot.
Right.
And they call it performance wear.
Right. So a mattress that, like our mattresses are made with cotton and wool. So wool wicks away that humidity. It's just like when you wear a pair of wool socks when you go hiking in the summer. Same thing. And no matter what time of year it is, it's always going to help your body regulate so that the two people in bed together have a nice neutral temperature.
It's really not surprising if you think about evolution. And we didn't evolve with synthetic products.
Yeah, because
really?
it wasn't a thing. They weren't invented until the plastic industry were invented in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, everything sleep related was invented by the oil business, right? So when they're refining oil to make gasoline, there was waste. And these really smart chemists in the 50s developed a way to take that waste and turn it into a consumable product, which was plastic and polyurethane foam.
It sounds like the evil sugar industry, like very similar. Like, what do we do with all this toxic stuff? Put it in food.
Yeah. I mean, we know now that it's not awesome for
Right.
our body or our environment.
Right.
But back then, plastic Tupperware was massively popular. I mean,
Right.
all those housewives.
Oh, yeah, and I still have a bunch of
Yeah. I mean, now we know not to put in the microwave, right? Before we warm up our soup.
Right.
But we learn. But one of the unintended consequences of polyurethane foam mattresses is, since it's a derivative from the oil industry, we have to have so many flame retardants on it. Because our government requires, back in the 50s, when these materials were being evolved in the 60s to the mid 70s,
They just let you engulf in flames.
they did. People smoked and people died in house fires.
Yeah.
So they created a law that it has to pass certain tests, and there are two tests that they do. And it's the same test they've done since the late 50s. One is they take a cigarette and they set it on a mattress, and our mattresses have to pass the same test. Every mattress that's sold in the United States has to pass these tests. One is they set a cigarette on it and it can't combust for a certain amount of time. Secondly is they actually shoot fire right at the side of a mattress.
That's pretty badass.
I'll show you the video. It's actually really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I bet.
And of course it's going to combust
Right.
because it's flame, right?
Yeah.
But it has to basically light. It can't spread to a
Right.
certain, and then it has to basically snuff itself out.
Okay.
So if you have a product made from polyurethane foam that, again, is a byproduct from the oil industry, it's obviously incredibly flammable, right? So the amount of flame retardants you have to add to that is an exorbitant amount.
Right.
Where if you start with something that's natural, you can get through that test using other natural flame retardant solutions so that you can pass the test and be sold in the United States. Here's why that's important. Flame retardants are the number one known hormone and endocrine disruptor that's known to man, to all life.
Got it.
Wow.
Hormones are probably our main navigation system, right? Our emotional, intellectual, physical navigation system.
It's the glue that holds us together.
It is so important. And when you talk about fertility issues coming in our country, autism, there's lots of science showing us that we should avoid flame retardants.
Sure.
And by the way, many countries in the world have outlawed them. We're one of the last countries that require it.
It was like we finally, a couple of years ago, outlawed hydrogenated oils.
Yeah.
And it was in peanut butter forever.
Right.
And it's like science was known about how horrible it was for you, and it wasn't until recently that. And look, the peanut butter's fine without that crap in it.
Totally.
Right.
You might have to mix it a little bit more.
Literally, my favorite peanut butter is like the ingredients are peanuts.
Totally.
Okay, easy.
And that's the whole basis of our company is based on that. That consumers deserve a choice, most consumers have no idea. I mean, you have polyurethane foam in everything.
Right.
Your car,
Yep.
your car kids seat, your
Mm-hmm.
planes, trains, and automobiles, right? Your couch. But if you're spending time a third of your life in bed, your skin is your largest organ.
Mm-hmm.
And you're laying on it and you're detoxifying, right? Your body's working so hard to keep you healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you're lying on polyurethane foam, which is a derivative from the oil industry,
Mm-hmm.
with all of these added flame retardants.
Mhm.
It's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
And that's where our industry, we start from that point.
Right.
And then we've taken
It's the why.
it's the why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the why. But
Yeah.
from our perspective, the secondary why, which I think is almost as important, not as much, but very close second, is giving customers the choice, right? And the longevity. You know, the bottom line is functionally, foams that are made, that are mattresses, if you go to any mainstream mattress store in Main Street, USA,
Mm-hmm.
the functionality of those products isn't good. Those industries have created foams that last, 5 to 8 years, 10 years maybe.
It's not that long at all.
Yeah, it breaks down with moisture and friction.
Mm.
So again, we sweat over a pint of moisture
Right.
per night.
Right.
I hope there's some friction happening in your mattress
Yeah.
and not just your tossing and turning, right?
Right.
But the bottom line is the functionality of those raw materials aren't smart
Mm.
Right.
for a consumer to invest in.
Right.
So for us,
And
that's
that's
a
the value
very
prop.
that's
That's
the
it.
value side of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I like that a lot. So okay, how about we start to rein this in, and how might somebody become an ambassador for Sage Sleep, and what might is that an open invitation, or is it more like, hey, if you are like this and this, you might be a good fit?
Well, I mean, certainly we want people who really wholeheartedly believe in what we're doing.
Mhm.
That's pretty much the only requirement,
Right.
right? So if you believe in the concept,
Mm-hmm.
and because that comes through,
Right.
right? If they have an authentic curiosity, and if the product works for them, I mean, we have ambassadors who if we think it's a good fit, we give them some product.
Right.
We give them 30 days to figure out if they want to work with us.
Right.
And that's okay if they say no thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big deal. I would rather hear that
Mhm.
than it not turn into anything.
And
Right.
what's their path to making money through the program?
So typically it's social media. I mean, really it could be anything, right? Because our website now, we've got the technology.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you have a fantastic email, group. Say you're a blogger and you've got a nice fat email list
Mm-hmm.
and people listen, right? And you want to talk about sleep and you partner with Sage Sleep. We have links. It provides your customer a nice discount.
Mm-hmm.
We handle all the servicing on the back end. And then the ambassador gets 15% commission, which is a very hardy commission
Yeah.
compared to other share sale type projects.
There you go. So let's see. What platforms are you on as far as like an individual? Are you on LinkedIn?
We are. Yep.
Okay.
I am. Yep. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, of course, Twitter. Pinterest has been a huge Pinterest has been very important to us lately.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing ads there now. But for the reality is that, every time you post on Instagram, 6% of your followers see it.
Right.
Right.
So the hard part for us is having ambassadors repost enough to where many people see it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting there. I mean, we're learning too. I'm not saying we've
Sure.
got this figured out.
Oh no, but I thought I'd at least invite somebody who might be like, I could kind of use some extra money.
Yeah.
I care about giving people healthy solutions. There's a lot of like health lifestyle people
Yes.
out there, bloggers, whatever.
The funny part is we really started with women, right? Because I have this real heart to help women, supporting women and female entrepreneurship. And again, this work-life balance of raising a family and still being able to financially participate in your household.
Right.
For whatever reason, for so many women, I know that those two things can't coexist. And that's always bothered me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The irony is that since we've closed the store, men, as far as our, we look at the data on our website and some of our social, there are more men than I would have ever thought. And I'm so proud of that. And, like CrossFit guys, guys that are really into.
That's actually really.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
It's a big part of our our growth right now.
That actually makes sense. Like fitness bros
Right.
being into everything that's like optimize physical performance at all
Totally.
costs.
Yeah.
Get your pillow today. But really, though, buy one. You know, it's like
Totally. Well, we have a woman who's a professional fisher woman.
Huh.
nice.
Yeah, she's
Like
an ambassador. She's a professional like bass fisher.
Yeah, ambassador.
Get it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
I know.
That's
And
punny.
she's beautiful, and she's a great fisher person. I do fisher women. What do you
I
say?
have no
I don't
idea.
know.
Angler.
Angler. Thank you. She's really good. But most of her followers, she has like 60,000 followers, and they're all men.
She's like, I sling lures and pillows. So.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
And she's great at it and by the way, she's been a customer of ours from the very beginning when we opened our store.
Wow.
I could see the Instagram right now with like her sleeping on the boat and fishing at the same time. I don't know.
I know it's
like
kind
that's
of
her
weird, like
persona.
how those two things go together,
The
right?
sleepy angler. Sorry, I just
That
get
could be
like,
a whole nother Instagram page.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What do we got? We're about an hour, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Right
You want to
now.
wrap it up?
Cool.
Was
Well,
that?
thank you
did-
for having me
did you-
here.
Yeah, of
I
course.
mean, yeah, I feel this is great. I'm so thankful that you're here helping small businesses and medium businesses and large businesses in the greater Auburn, Grass Valley area. It's really, really important.
It's a journey and it's really fun. It's really gratifying.
Well, I want to thank you for your help that you offered me. Being able to bounce off some ideas on this exit strategy and growth opportunity was incredibly helpful for me. So thank you again.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Wasn't it? Oh. The only reason I started Thanks for tuning into the podcast, everyone. If you liked the episode today, be sure to subscribe to keep us in your podcast lineup. If you're interested in being a guest on the show or sponsoring the show, reach out to us at auburnbusinessventures.com.